welcome to another episode of Pod Between Worlds. Tonight, we're going to talk to you about, all the good Star Wars stuff, but we have some High Republic news, some Mandalorian news, and then we're going to talk about some canon and lore related to those two things. Coming in hot. All right, welcome to another episode, everybody. Ollie, how's your week been going? What Star Wars stuff have you been watching lately?
So far, so good. Mostly working on my new whiteboard series stuff. Been re-listening to Thrawn's first novel.
Ooh.
And then almost done with that, so I'm going to go back through 2 and 3 as well. And then should have that out hopefully in the next week or two, I'm hoping. I kind of have it all organized, and we'll launch that series with a pretty deep one. Thrawn obviously has a lot, and then I think I'll spiral off from there. I'd like to start with some of the characters that maybe people who are really into the movies but don't know where to get started in the extra canon stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Want to do that kind of thing. So Thrawn, I think, is a big one, and I also think that people like maybe based off of Thrawn stuff like Eli Vanto, even like Ahsoka and Maul, you know what I mean, who have shown up, who are a little bit more popular, but a lot of people just know them from or have heard of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think I'll start there and then kind of move towards maybe we move to some more ancillary characters like Vanto, Ponkrell, people like that.
Eli Vanto's a big one too. That's definitely
just not as long a video, more kind of just outlining why and where he is, and then maybe some speculation. But we'll get to those. I think we do the longer ones first, kind of to get a foothold. But what's up with you? What have you been Star Warsing on?
Lately, I've been rewatching Rebels. I've rewatched pretty much everything at this point with Rebels. I'm at the very last season. Another thing that I've watched recently. I read the Ahsoka book again.
Okay.
I think we discussed that, but reread the Ahsoka book. I just got a New Dawn in because I really like the Rebels TV show. So
yeah,
I listened to a New Dawn like a long time ago.
I'm gonna have to reread that too. That was like at the very beginning.
It's I remember the audiobook being really cool. I'm not sure if it had the voices of Kanan and Hera in that, but it'd be really cool if it did. Have have you guys read the Plagueis novel? I have not.
I have, yep.
Ollie has.
It's a great one. It still fits mostly into canon, but it hopefully they make it canon someday. But yes, Steve, you should read that because that is an excellent one, and it's kind of one of the weird ones. It's the last one that got left off the now is canon or Disney canon thing. But it pretty much fits everything still. I don't know that they want to admit, they may want to change some stuff, but now that episode 9's out and the sequel trilogy is done, I feel like they didn't really ruin anything. It still fits, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Tarkin-y novel, but more Force based. It's real serious and like deep. Yeah.
Tarkin Tarkin was a hard read for me. I
gotcha. Same guy.
Oh, it's the same guy, really?
That wrote it, yeah.
Oh, well, here's the thing. If I actually read the book, that'd be different. Because the audiobook for me just didn't do anything for me.
I see.
But, yeah, I felt like episode 9 was just JJ trying to rewrite episode 8. I don't know how he, I guess, do you mean like retconning? Is that JJ trying to retcon episode 8?
I mean, he did a little bit by the technical variation, but I think they did a decent job. I mean, his view wasn't obviously where Rian Johnson went, so
yeah.
He brought it back to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, this is The Force Awakens definitely feels like it fits into the universe, whereas the other two don't at all. But
I disagree.
To me, that in my opinion, that's what I think. But.
So what do we got for news? Right?
Yeah,
we got some news pieces.
Yeah, so the High Republic has been delayed till 2021.
I know, bummer.
Yeah, I'm pretty bummed about that too. And Kevin Scott also, I believe he tweeted this week saying there was an announcement coming this summer that's going to be really cool about the High Republic. So we'll have to see. We'll have to stay tuned for what that is. But what's your thoughts on that? Is there anything?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little
nothing, I guess, at this point.
Right. Definitely a little bummed that it got pushed back. I was a little surprised because usually, like, for when they announced it and when the first novel was coming out, what was the first novel? It was like July originally, right? Like early July.
June. Actually.
June. So even more to the point, like
closer.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me because you feel like a novel that's going to release in June is probably done, right? And I know there's more to it, like publishing and that kind of thing, but like in a weird way, wouldn't you figure like a lot of the writing and stuff is like perfectly suited for this kind of thing, as much as any business is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Time alone to write, isn't that what writers do? You know what I mean? I know there's other steps in the process to bring the product, you know what I mean, to the market, but so I was a little surprised. I mean, not shocked because everything's kind of a mess right now, but definitely a little surprised. I thought this was kind of gonna mainly stay on time.
I think I'm bummed, but at the same time, it sounds like we're still gonna get a bunch of new content coming out this fall. I mean, like we already know we're getting
Mandalorian
season 2. That's gonna be huge. Supposedly the Rebel sequel is still coming, but we still haven't heard any details.
No official announcement on that. Yeah,
which is odd. But there are people that are speculating that might come on. Was it Hair to the Jedi Day? I guess.
Hair to the Jedi, that book? Is that what?
Yeah, whenever that released, they're saying that the announcement. I don't know if it was like a 5-year anniversary from there.
Gotcha.
That
may be the worst canon book so far.
I haven't. That's like one of the only ones I haven't read, and I just don't.
It's a super weird, like, interested in it. It's a super odd, like, side adventure for Luke. That makes no, like, I think it's after A New Hope, before Empire Strikes Back. It's just weird. I don't know. Nothing really happens.
One of the things I do wish that Star Wars, like the franchise did though with that, is that with Luke at least, is that I wish they would have done more stories of after Return of the Jedi with him.
I think that's the plan. I mean, they're going to do it sooner or later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one is like, I forget who did the audiobook, but there's somebody that has a Luke voice, and I like most of the audio voice guys, but I'll have to look it up. But he does like a super whiny, bitchy Luke voice, like, you know what I mean, like a preteen Luke, and it's like, to listen to the whole book is kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's not just from what you've said. It's just not. It hasn't been on my radar. That might be like.
There's probably some hidden like canon thing in there because nobody reads it. Did you go back and check it out?
Did you do the audiobook though?
Yeah, I do the audiobook for most stuff.
Force healing. Rey, who has barely been trained but can do it. Obi-Wan can't force heal Qui-Gon. Yeah, that's a lengthy question on that one. There's definitely different opinions on that. That's coming from the chat.
Yeah, no, I see it. It is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of, you can dive down a lot of rabbit holes in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of people that don't agree with the whole force healing thing, and
I'll just say this: most of Rey's stuff, like, you can nitpick a lot of Rey's stuff. The whole story with Rey is that she was like, she could mimic basically whatever she saw, or like it was all coming back to her. There was the whole Palpatine thing, you know. She's basically, you know, like the diet and the Force kind of thing. She's a freak, so like she saw the heal, you know what I mean. So that's kind of where it comes from. To agree or disagree, I'm not saying that it makes it right. I'm just saying it hadn't been seen in a long time. So Obi-Wan obviously didn't know it as a Padawan. So there was no way he was doing it to Qui-Gon. But there are a million examples of other powerful Jedi in certain situations that you're like, oh, why didn't he just heal him? Which, touche. there are plenty.
Yeah, it's
But that's a rabbit hole.
That's a whole I'm not gonna even get into that one, but you know how I feel about some of this stuff. But,
yeah.
Force healing wasn't one of them. Wasn't like one of the main things for me. It was different things, but
yeah.
But so not to get sidetracked off the High Republic news, but I think we pretty much covered the High Republic there. With they're gonna be delayed. We have some new content coming in the fall. We have Mandalorian coming. We still got stuff in the pipeline, and
it may be a more like cohesive launch now that it's backed up. You know what I mean? Kind of all at the same time.
And it gives the writers more time too.
Yeah. Yep.
It gives them more time, and I know just from my experience that I can't even imagine trying to tie up all these like canon shit with Star Wars and everything. It's just like it's got to be insane. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're more worried about working with each other than the canon as it stands, just because they purposely went back in time to not have those issues. You know what I mean? But they all have to work together to make it cohesive. So it's easier, but more difficult in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So no, I mean, get it right. It's not it's a 6-month bump basically. So it's not crazy, especially with all this shit going on. So, understandable is what I would say.
Yeah, especially with everything going on. So
yeah.
But we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, if we hear anything, obviously in the news or whatnot, we'll definitely talk about it. Hopefully we hear something in the next couple months, like Kevin Scott said.
Yeah.
Tweeted about. So hopefully there's some good news coming down the pipeline. So, so moving on from that, we were talking earlier about doing a what if scenario. So I've been watching the prequels a lot lately. Ollie, I know you mentioned you want to rewatch them just to get back into them.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them in the last year, but yeah, I wanted to kind of go back over them now that everything's finished up.
Yeah, and the prequels. So I'm watching the prequels with my girlfriend, and she's never watched Star Wars before, so we watched Phantom Menace, and then we watched Attack of the Clones. And one of the biggest things that I think, one of the smallest details that I think maybe sometimes gets overlooked, and kind of curious to see, Ollie, what you think, is the whole Kamino aspect of the Clone Wars. The fact that they find that poison dart from that, I guess, that assassin.
Yeah.
And that leads all the way back to Kamino.
Well, it's from Django. Sorry, Django kills the assassin with it. Yeah, yep.
It's from Django, but the whole thing is like, what if that, like, say they caught the assassin earlier, or say they, and the bounty hunter wasn't there to, poison her and to give away kind of the Kamino aspect, or was it really staged? I mean, that scene actually plays a bigger role in the whole Clone Wars to me than anything else, because if that whole thing didn't happen, then why would the Jedi even look at the clones? Why would they ever go to Kamino? Why would Obi-Wan ever go to Kamino?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think to be like analytical about it, I don't think it matters in the long run when you look at the rest of canon. But it is interesting because, so let me explain basically what the story sets up. So they would probably get it out of Zam Weasel, who's the changeling that they capture and Boba kills. Django kills, right?
Yeah.
So then they end up chasing Django, and the whole thing ensues with Obi-Wan finding Kamino and the Kaminoans and the army, right? So is it orchestrated by Palpatine? I mean, the whole thing basically was, at the end of the day. I'm going to assume, even if that specific thing wasn't set up, Palpatine still had the clones set up for them, right? So there was still going to be this moment that the Kaminoans were going to contact the Jedi Order. And if it probably was going to play out more like Palpatine would put a little more pressure on them and have the drone army kind of like attack, you know what I mean? The droid army like attack, or do different things. That he was going to use it in different ways, and then they would be forced to basically find an army. And so it was going to come out of the woodwork anyway. So in other words, it wouldn't change the story at the end of the day. It's just the vehicle that like Lucas used to get there, right? Because also at the same time as they found the Kamino, as Obi-Wan finds the Kaminoans, it kind of leads them on the trail of getting captured by Dooku, right? Which is when they actually do use the clones. So in essence, like the whole thing with Dooku and that whole moment where they needed to use the clones and basically launch the Clone Wars, that may not have happened had they not found the Kaminoans. So what was if it wasn't planned the exact way that it happened by Palpatine, there was probably a moment somewhere down the line. Was it quicker? Was it slow? I mean, well, obviously it wasn't quicker, but like how long down the line? Who knows? Yeah. You know what I mean? But there was going to be that moment regardless, and it just happened to be that's the one that they chose to tell the story on. But yeah, I think it was all set up in a way that Palpatine was going to do something to force the hand of the Republic at the end of the day, right? And this clone army was going to fall into the lap of the Jedi with the whole Sifo Dyas thing. And you know, from reading the stories like from Dooku Lost and stuff like that, you know that the Jedi Council was aware of Sifo's like future premonitions that something was going to happen. And you know what I mean? So it wouldn't be, it's not as much as they don't do enough research to be like, why the hell was this army made, right? It does have logic that this guy that they knew that was a Jedi had these premonitions, and now he went out on his own before he died and started this army. You know what I mean? So it logically does put together that they'd be like, well, he could have done that. You know what I mean? It's just the next question needs to be like, well, do we, you know what I mean? Do we check them and like all this kind of stuff? You know, it seemed like a little quick, but their hand was forced with the Dooku situation. So,
right, yeah, that's the other piece of it that is kind of, you know, they kind of just took the army and like, okay, we're gonna go fight with the clone army, like no big deal, and it's not. And at that point too, I think it was the Kamonians.
I think it's Kaminoans. I don't know that they ever say it. Yeah.
They
Kaminoans could be a million different things.
They mentioned Tyrannus, but at that point they don't know that it's Count Dooku. Like,
right.
That's his Darth name. So Sith Lord name, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think they mention it. Is it Return of the Sith or Revenge of the Sith, or is it Attack of the Clones? I think they mention at some point the whole, maybe it's in Clone Wars, the cartoon. They do mention, because they find out that Tyrannus was not, they thought for a while Tyrannus may be the head of the Sith. They didn't know about Sidious. There's like a moment there where they think that.
It was Revenge of the Sith.
What, it was in Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, because that was...
And then they kind of stutter and they're like, something's, but they're at that point. It's like almost at the end of the Clone Wars at that point. You know what I mean? So it's like too late to really do anything.
Wasn't it Tyrannus gets killed, or
right,
Dooku gets killed, and then afterwards they're like, something's up, like.
Yeah, I think there's also Clone Wars. I think that's why I'm mixing up. I think there's Clone Wars episodes too where Yoda like talks about it, and they're kind of like, they're starting to get aware of it. It's right before the turn. They're starting to be like, all right, something's not right. You know what I mean? But they don't pull the string fast enough.
Right.
They don't figure it out is what happens at the end of the day. But they're all getting leery, especially Yoda.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's an interesting question because it does, without all that background knowledge, and really when it happened, none of that was written. So it was like when the movie came out, it wasn't interesting. It's definitely interesting because you're like, yeah, what if they do never follow that? Like, how do they even end up with the clones? You know?
And I don't think when I watched in the past, I ever thought about that. I never thought like,
right.
What if they didn't, like, what if they never got that poison dart? What the hell would have happened?
Yeah, Attack of the Clones is an interesting one because there's a ton when I watched it last year that I was like, oh wow, totally forgot that happens. Like half that movie, I don't remember half that movie. The part of the movie that I remember is basically the end where they're in the fighting pit and the clones attack with all the Jedis. You know what I mean? Like that's like the whole movie to me. But it's like a 9-hour movie.
Yeah,
There's
it's
like a
actually,
million things that happen.
and for the record, my girlfriend really liked the first two movies compared to the originals, which is like a sin to say, but she
Episode
likes
1 and 2.
yeah, she likes
Okay.
episode she liked two the most so far.
Yeah.
And besides Anakin and Padme's garbage stuff, and then she's been predicting the whole time, like, oh yeah, they're gonna fall. Oh,
Yeah.
this is very predictable.
Yep.
But she was also like, she was, you know, it's newer, so things look better. The
Yeah,
acting,
I'll be interesting to see how much she likes the new trilogy because obviously it's more modern. It's more what we're used to going to see a movie. Yeah,
I think she's gonna like the new trilogy just based on
and the whole Rey and Ben and Finn thing
yeah,
fits closer to the Anakin Padme thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that storyline.
yeah. I agree. I think she'll, yeah. That's my prediction. At least
She'll enjoy them.
she liked Rogue One a lot too.
Yeah. Well,
She knew
we've talked
everybody.
about that at length. I think Rogue One's really, really good.
Yeah, but she definitely at first she was kind of confused what was going on, and then she was like,
She kind of figured it out.
she liked well, she really liked the characters, and
Gotcha.
that's when she, so
Makes sense.
But I think that wraps up the what if scenario there. That was a good one. I thought
Yeah.
just watching that movie, it was kind of just out there. I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. So
Yeah.
um but moving on to
Yeah.
our Canon spotlight, I'll just flip it over to you.
Yeah, so our Canon spotlight, obviously we go over something in Canon. Usually it's a little off the beaten path, but we try to bring in references and stuff like that. Tonight's is like a relatively quick one. There's not a ton on this character, but we're going to do Cobb Vanth.
Which is related to Mandalorian
season. Right. So the reason we're doing it is because of all this season 2 news for Mandalorian and different people playing different things and going back and picking up on some rumors that we thought at the end of episode 4, the one on Tatooine where everybody thought it was Boba Fett walking up to Fennec Shan's corpse or body, because maybe she's still alive is what we think now. A lot of people thought it was Gideon. A lot of people thought it was Boba Fett. Pretty much come to the conclusion from the sound that the armor makes that it's definitely Boba Fett's armor, or at the very least a Mandalorian's armor, which we've seen other Mandalorians and that noise doesn't happen, so it's pretty safe to assume it's Boba Fett's armor. I am in the camp that thinks it's probably Cobb Vanth and not Boba Fett. So, real quick, Cobb Vanth, we're not going to go into like a crazy detail, but Cobb Vanth was a character that was introduced in the Aftermath series of books, which if you haven't read them and you're interested in what happens kind of after Return of the Jedi, like closely after that, that's basically what these books do, and they kind of launch the New Republic. So it's a neat series, and it's written interestingly that as the main story progresses, there's little chapters that are kind of random, and they may be like a one-off that talks about like there's one about bounty hunters. Like it's like a Dengar one or something. And so they're like complete spin-offs of little chapters that are just like completely random stories from around the galaxy. And one of them that actually reoccurs, I think there ends up being three or four chapters on it, is this guy named Cobb Vanth. And why it's interesting is Cobb Vanth is kind of a mysterious character. We don't even know that that's his name. That's what he projects. But basically, he ends up on Tatooine sometime after the Return of the Jedi or around that time, and he ends up with Boba Fett's armor. Not specifically said, but basically he ends up on Tatooine, and a sandcrawler with Jawas has a bunch of Mandalorian armor, and he ends up with it. And he starts, basically the breakdown is he starts kind of this town that used to be Mos Elpa, I think, Alpo. Anyway, not really important, but he starts basically a new town called Freetown, and he's going to protect people who want to work and not work for this crime syndicates and everything, because it's like after Jabba, dies in Return of the Jedi. There's like a power vacuum, and there's different crime syndicates there and stuff. So he creates this town that people can get an honest living. He has like a star carved out of his back or something, so it seems like he was a slave at one point, I think he mentions, and now he's a free man. So he's definitely a principled character that doesn't want to happen what happened to him to happen to other people. So he creates this town, gets into little fights with local crime lords. Other little interesting things, he ends up making deal with the Tusken Raiders, which is obviously tough to do for protection. He also gets he hires or works with and becomes friends with the beast tamer from Jabba's palace, the Malachi, I think is his name, or Maliki, who is the Rancor's owner, basically the guy who cries when Luke kills the Rancor with the door at the end. So it's a little like canon connection, which is fun. And they actually end up in possession of a Huttlet, assumingly Jabba's child, and so they're raising the little Huttlet, Borgo the Hutt. So I think it's fun. I think that's who we may end up seeing in The Mandalorian with Boba Fett's armor. So there'll be a neat little connection there. I did a little digging. I couldn't figure out that they specifically referenced that star thing. I thought there was something called star mining, and it was con star mining from the Phasma book, but I couldn't make any connections of slaves and them like, branding their people. So that's a long shot, but hopefully we'll get a little bit more. It did seem in the books like they were leading you to try to put this guy somewhere that we may know, you know what I mean? But I couldn't quite figure it out. So we'll have to wait, especially if he's in The Mandalorian. We'll get a little bit of background, so it should be cool. Did I lose you there?
I think so for a second, but I think you were wrapping it.
Yeah, just wrapping up. Yeah. Just saying that's we may learn more in The Mandalorian. So we thought it was a fun little one to do tonight to just throw out there so that you can keep your eyes out for the Boba Fett reveal and know that it's probably not Boba Fett.
Yeah. And also another thing too, I would add to that is the Aftermath book. That's is in the first one or the second one that he appears.
I think he's in all three because he's he's one of the only reoccurring random chapters. Yeah.
I remember him in a couple of them
there's one from a different point of. I think I think you have one from his point of view, and then I think you have one from. I think they're shot from different points of view. They're told from different points of view, but he's in three of them.
I'd highly recommend the Aftermath trilogy, though. I'm sure you do as well. Even it's weird. The first book is kind of a weird read because it's just like everything. It's the aftermath of.
If you do audiobooks, do the audiobook because a lot of people complained. I guess it was written in weird prose, like a lot of like semicolons and stuff. It actually you don't notice it in the audiobook. It's almost written like a screenplay in a way.
So I read the first book, and I
remember you saying like it was, but you said it was weird. You noticed it.
But right off the bat. But like it wasn't a bad read. It was very. Some of the things were kind of like I don't know what this means. Even like Cobb Vanth's chapter, I do remember reading it, and part of me was kind of like, wait, what's this actually going on?
Yeah.
But
understandable.
But I think it's also he was trying to lay the was it Chuck Wendig? Say it. I think
Chuck Wendig, yeah.
He's trying to set up the whole foundation for that trilogy. So I think that's part of the reason why it was kind of in a weird, format because the last two books were amazing.
I thought the whole series was really good. It's an interesting time because they did need to wrap it up because it didn't. The way that they told the story didn't end in Return of the Jedi. So they put a nice little bow on it, and they also kind of kicked off the New Republic. You have a lot of interesting characters, in Aftermath too. Ray Sloane's actually one of the ones I want to do a whiteboard series on because she is in a lot, and she is an awesome character.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. So I think that wraps up our episode. I don't know if you have any other comments? Or...
Nope, that's it. We had a nice quick one. We still need to get our full season 7 arc 4 or arc 3 connections out, full review, which we'll do hopefully next week. But yeah.
All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Quick episode, like we said. And also make sure to follow us on our Twitch or YouTube. And if you want to listen to us on the go, check out our podcast services. We're on Spotify and all the podcast streaming services. So I believe this weekend we're going to be doing a Gaming Evolved episode, and then we'll probably be doing another Star Wars one too, Pod Between Worlds. So
yep.
But yeah, so other than that, catch you later, Podawans.
Later.